Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast is here. Get his thoughts on the Eagles draft class and how they fit in to their depth chart now, as the Eagles drafted 6 players on defense, 4 on the offensive side of the ball. We think most of the players on offense are more depth pieces. The defense might have more impactful players in the first year of their rookie seasons. But let's bring in Adam Caplan and see what he's hearing and what he thinks about this Eagles draft class right now on a Sports Bash Tuesday edition of Football at 4. Adam, what's up, buddy?
Mike, good talk to you. Yeah, I haven't talked to you since last week, so yeah, it's been fascinating. So, I actually got off the phone with someone that's scouting from another team today about an hour ago, and he actually went over. He was nice enough to go over the players that he actually watched film of, because he had part of his job was to give over the top grades. He was asked us to grade tape of certain positions. So let's get into that, Mike. Jahad Campbell, look, universally, the cool thing about this Eagles draft class, Mike, including Jahad Campbell, is, other than Cameron Williams, who we'll talk about, Mike, I think everyone liked the draft class. Like, really, not that there's anything wrong with Cameron Williams, but there's just, he's a project. But overall, for the second straight year, I'd say, Mike, this is just right after the draft, getting opinions from those in scouting mostly I talked to some coaches, but mostly people in scouting. Everybody likes the Eagles draft. I mean, the later you get, the less they like it, but they don't really have a problem with any of it. It's interesting because you never know when you talk to people. Like back in 2020, everyone I spoke with to slam the Jalen Reagor pick. I tried to explain the Eagles' thinking. No one really wanted to buy it. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was a guy that a lot of people in scouting did not like. That's when Howie kind of did things a certain way, but there's a reason why he's now one of the best drafters and arguably the best GM in the National Football League, because he's just doing a much better job, Mike, in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, and you've talked a lot. It's about the future. It's not about initially right now. But you take a look at, okay, Campbell's a player that probably could play right away. Makuba is a guy that I would imagine is at least in competition to play right away. Ty Robinson, can he be a rotational player right away?
Yeah, he can, Mike. Boy, it's funny. So they had, 10 draft picks?
Yes. 6 on defense, 4 on offense.
Right. If I polled, I know how people felt about him. Let's say I got 20 opinions. I would say the opinions on Ty Robinson were more positive than even Jahad Campbell, and everybody liked Jahad Campbell. Everyone I spoke with raved about Ty Robinson. The knock on him, and it's not something that he really controls, it's what is he? A lot of the guys I spoke with don't think he's a 43 D tackle, or he can be, but he's not really a 3 technique. He's built a little bit bigger than your typical 3 technique, but he might be a little smaller. It's not weight, Mike. It's just the body type. This is all from coaching tape. This has nothing to do with measurables. It's more about what the tape looks like, because that's everything we get is tape based, nothing else. It's not conjecture or from the message board. It's from people who actually work in the National Football League. But everybody likes the energy. The way his style of play is really good. Everyone I've talked to said the Eagles probably got a really good value in the 4th. He had some 3rd-round grades. And he's a better fit for the scheme that they play than he would be for 43. The Eagles run an odd man front. He's not a good match for an even front. And the Eagles run an odd front. So that's a guy that everybody likes. Now, let's get to Drew Makuba. Now, by the way, he goes by Drew, not Andrew, so we'll call him Drew from now on in. Everybody likes him. Now, some teams like him more than others, like the Eagles did. Some teams liked Watts, the safety from Notre Dame. The Eagles liked him a lot too. But the thing about Makuba over Watts is he's a better athlete. He's got a little bit better versatility. Watts is he's got more of a thicker body than Makuba. Makuba, Mike, what the issue that teams have with him is nothing he really controls. He's on the thinner side. It's not that 186, by the way, is not that small. And it's not about just putting on muscle. Putting on muscle does not cure everything. There's this belief in the internet, well, if he just puts 5 pounds on, it'll be fine. It doesn't work that way. It's body type, it's tissue, it's what you're born with, and what you can do with your body from a nutrition and training standpoint, which the Eagles staff will get done. They'll work with him to try to build his body up. But this guy could cover. Mike. He could be you could handle him as a nickel defender. He could actually play on the outside a little bit if you needed to. So this is a pick universally well liked, Mike. To be honest with you, Jeff and I have exchanged a lot of notes. Other than the kid Williams, who, again, we'll talk about him, and it's not Mac McWilliams. We'll talk about him in a second. The responses we got in the draft pretty good.
All right, let's look at Mac McWilliams before we move down a little further, because he was a corner in the 5th round. Smile Mondi is a inside linebacker from Georgia, who was a 5-star recruit. So it looks like they got a guy with a lot of upside there. So let's, before we look at those 4 offensive players, let's look at those 2 defensive players, McWilliams and Smile Mondin, the linebacker.
Yeah, Mondin is your typical today's inside backer. He's in the mid to high 220s. When I first started covering the league, you would never draft anyone less than 240. That wasn't done. But the first guy I remember, Mike, you might remember Cato June, who played for the Colts. Cato June was a undersized weak side linebacker out of Michigan, who at one point was 215 pounds with the Colts. A really good football player. And look, if you've got a good front, you could kind of try to protect him. Mondin, we'll see what he weighs when he's with the Eagles, but you don't want to be too heavy, because one of the things you really like about him is his athletic ability. So yeah, he's a guy that they're pretty light at inside backer. We'll see where they line up Campbell. Remember, Campbell's coming back from shoulder labrum surgery, so he'll be limited in their off-season program. That we'll find out soon what they'll allow him to do and not allow him to do. He won't be able to have contact to at least training camp, if not later. So from a mental standpoint, Campbell's got to, he's got to learn the way that they teach it. He's going to start in the inside back room. We know he could be an edge rusher, but for this season, Mike, Mondin's a guy that will have a chance to make the roster. They're light there. Mac McWilliams, by the way, I'm told by 2 teams, he absolutely could play inside or outside corner. He could play nickel. He could play outside. It's just a matter of how the Eagles want to use him. They need him on the outside more than they do nickel. Obviously, they're pretty good with nickel. So we'll see what happens there. But by the way, a guy who's really liked in the scouting community.
All right, Adam, they got a string of 5 straight defensive players. Then they went 4 straight offensive players. They took 3 offensive linemen, 1 quarterback, and I would imagine all of these guys are depth pieces and more, guys are going to be reserve players. But the 3 offensive linemen and then the quarterback and Kyle McCord, and there was a lot of buzz in that 5th round that Sanders was on the board, and they might have had interest there. Instead, the Browns jumped over them. They end up with Kyle McCord, who started at Ohio State, ended at Syracuse.
Yeah, so let's go to Drew Kendall, Pete Kendall's son. You might remember Pete Kendall, who played for the Jets and Seahawks. Just like his son Drew. Now, the Eagles see him as a guard center. I think, based on what I've been told from guys who scouted his area, he's more of a center than a guard at this point. They don't know if he's strong enough physically to play guard. They need a backup center, and they'd rather not move Landon Dickerson over. That's why they drafted Kendall. So we'll see. They did not get it right last year on the kid they got from North Carolina State, who was too small. Dylan McMahon, who's now with the Rams. But Kyle McCord's a guy a lot of guys around the National Football League like. And, yeah, he could have gone earlier. He played 1 year, as we know, at Syracuse, put up massive numbers. This is a good developmental prospect. See, you have to remember now, Mike, when you look at guys who are on a contract for the future, this will be Tanner McKee's 3rd year, right? And barring a shocker, he'll be the number 2 quarterback. The Eagles are operating as he will definitely be the number 2 quarterback. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is just there. He's on a trade. Howie Roseman liked him for that draft. As we told our listeners, he's now in his 3rd year. So Howie's always looking toward the future, and this is just a smart pick on McCord, a local product. Miles Hinton, Chris Hinton's son. You might remember Chris Hinton, who was involved in the John Elway trade in 1983. Hinton left Stanford. He lost his starting job there. Went to Michigan. He could play right or left tackle. I'll tell you what, Mike, if it all works out for him, as early as year 2, he could be their swing tackle. That's if everything works out. And that's, by the way, the way the Eagles are thinking about this. So that's that. Cameron Williams has incredible measurable traits. That's what they're called. Measurables are a trait, Mike. He's got the biggest hands of any offensive lineman from the combine. He's going to be a right tackle. he's got just everything you want in a tackle, but he only has 1 year of starting, and he's raw as a prospect. This is going to be a Jeff Stoughton special. This kid's got a long way to go, Mike. Let's just see what happens. I don't. He might replace Lane Johnson when he's done. Let's let him make the team first, okay? Let's everybody. You know how it is on social media. Everyone's going to be great. John Campbell's the next SESU winner. Okay, let the guy play first, okay? John Campbell's extremely interesting. We have a really cool interview we're going to have when someone close to him. We're not going to give that away here, but we got something really cool coming up with him on his career. But Campbell's so interesting. And Antoine Powell-Ryland is their last pick. I'm trying to figure out why, Mike, he didn't go higher. If you look at his measurables, he's not small. I know he's under 6'3", but he weighed in over 258 at the combine. I don't know. His numbers are good. I don't quite understand why he dropped so far. He's got tremendous upside. I really like. Look, Mike, they haven't played a game yet. Who knows how they'll perform in training camp? But just based on what I know, what I've been told about what personal people think of this draft, I talked to area scouts, over-the-top scouts, Mike. Overall, this is a draft that people really like on the surface.
All right, Adam Caplan, Football at 4 from the Inside the Birds podcast. There you go. A look at the draft class for the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, some depth pieces. They really needed a backup center to Cam Jurgens, so they don't have to use Landon Dickerson in that role. So we'll see if Drew Kendall can be that guy. A couple bloodline players, Kendall, Hinton, and then some interesting prospects as they round this out. So where do these guys fit in? What does this depth chart look like now on the offensive side of the ball as we get ready for the first rookie mini camp this Saturday and Sunday? Yeah,
so folks could hear that show we dropped Monday morning, which we got a really good audience for. We appreciate the support. You could hear Jeff Mosher and I go through every position in detail and what it looks like for now and for the future. But we just talked about quarterback. The running back situation, Mike, is interesting because behind Barkley, you got A.J. Dillon, who didn't play last year. Will Shipley's got a lot of juice, explosive, but there's questions on how much volume he could handle. Because, Mike, the Eagles have to answer this. What if Barkley gets hurt or he couldn't play for any reason? Well, if Dillon makes the team, how much volume could he handle? Well, he's built to handle volume because that's why the Packers drafted in the second round, but you just don't know. So you got to see how healthy he is, and then you got Ty Davis-Price, who was drafted by the Niners, Lou Nichols, a power back, who was drafted by the Packers, and Davis-Price by the Niners. And Avery Williams, by the way, it's interesting, Mike. They're calling him a running back. He might wind up being a slot receiver. Who knows? At a special teams returner. Remember, Sirianni was beaming at the owners' meetings about this guy. So we'll see what they do with him in OTAs. Now, receiver, past Dotson, who's on the final of his rookie deal. The jobs are open here, Mike. It's open. Terrace Marshall, I know the Eagles are excited to have signed and bring him in here. Anaya Smith is a punt returner and a slot receiver. Danny Gray, who could run, and Elijah Cooks is a big body. So, Mike, it's a situation. The depth isn't very good. They know that. It would be great if Terrace Marshall could show what the Panthers thought they were getting 3 years ago. So we'll see what happens. Goddard, by the way, will move to tight end. Mike, as you know, Goddard's on the team. Will not surprise us if they try to work out some restructured deal on his last year. He's due over $15 million, not guaranteed. Maybe they work out a pay reduction and then he could increase it by incentives. We'll see what happens. But I thought Howie Roseman's words were cryptic. I don't know what everybody's reading into stuff. I just thought it was interesting. I don't know what you thought, Mike.
It wasn't a ringing endorsement. Let's say that.
I know, but we try to warn people, folks. When a club tells the player and agent, hey, listen, we're going to give you permission to seek a trade, and he didn't ask for it, that's telling you they want to trade the player. That's what happened. They weren't able to move him. They weren't going to give him away. He's on the team. I don't care that they were 8-1 with him and without him. People are saying, oh, they're better off trading him. No, they're not. They're better with him, folks. Watch the player. He's tremendous. He just gets hurt a lot. Grant Calcaterra, Kylan Granson. Mike, he's a F tight end. He cannot play in line. You could try it, but he's too small. He's under 6'2". Harrison Bryant, we really like. Nick Muse, E.J. Jenkins, and Cameron Latu. Mike, this is insane. all 7 tight ends on the roster, their contracts will expire after the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think, ultimately at this point now, do you think Goddard is more inclined to be back then?
Yeah, I never do percentages. It's a waste of time. But I will tell you that I definitely see a path for him to stay. I'll leave it at that, Mike. I just don't see them cutting him. Why would they cut him? I know people are speculating that. That would floor me, Mike. I would be shocked if they did that.
Yeah.
What
well,
sense
it did.
Would that make?
It didn't make a lot of sense. And then hey, they're looking for a 4th-round pick or maybe a pick in a future draft. I mean, did he not have any interest on the?
He did. There were some teams, but my understanding was, Mike, that some teams are going to wait to see what they got in the draft, and that kind of eliminated
I would imagine
it.
Tyler Warren falling to 15 definitely changed the dynamics, because Indianapolis might have been a team interested, right?
Well, of course, with Steichen and other guys who've been in Philly, but yeah, the bottom line is, Mike, Goddard is on the football team, and that's the way they're operating right now. Howie could not, he can't really go into any kind of negotiations or anything related to it because it's just not fair. And that's just the way it is. But we've given people like the Nuts version for about 3 months now. Our Patreon members found out about where this was headed before it got reported. So we'll see. But you know what? Now again, it's super early. We don't even know who's coming out. But a friend of mine who's a college director, he said he gave me 4 names of guys who are studs for tight ends next year. So maybe Eagles get one of those guys.
The offensive line, real quick. You mentioned they drafted 3 guys. I would imagine if they were putting out a depth chart, and I know this is very premature, but you got Juergens, Steen, Dickerson, Mailata Johnson. They brought in Matt Pryor. You traded for Kenyon Green. Yep. Those guys, I would imagine, are safe. Then you have the 3 rookies and then a bunch of the other guys. So it'll be interesting to see how the kind of reserve spots, and then, of course, right guard, that will be the story probably again at training camp.
It is. We'll start at right guard. It's Steen versus Kenyon Green.
Right.
At left guard, it's Dickerson, Keegan. We'll see. Keegan's no lock to make the team. He's a 5th runner last year. Behind Mailata, it's Kendall Lamb. Lamb will play right. He can back up at right or left tackle. Brett Toth somehow is still on the team. On and off the team for 5 years, Mike. It's crazy. Miles Hinton, who I talked about, probably will. Well, we'll see. I would think he would start off backing up at left tackle, but that again, he could play right or left. Behind Lane Johnson, you got Matt Pryor. Matt Pryor could play guard. Darren Kennard has played guard. He's played right tackle, and Cameron Williams, who I mentioned, and Drew Kennel to back up Juergens. Mike, they're loaded on offense. They don't really need to do anything. They're now if Goddard for some surprising reason wound up getting traded before the season started. I don't like the fact that you got all these backups. You don't have there's no one there as a starter. There's just not anyone. Harrison Bryant's the most talented of all of them, but I wouldn't want to go into the season as him as a starter, quite frankly.
Yeah. All right. Real quick before we let Adam Caplan roll out of here, that wide receiver, they did not take a wide receiver in this class. Dotson, Terrace Marshall, Anaya Smith, Johnny Wilson, and you mentioned Danny Gray and Elijah Cooks, but are they still on the lookout for a receiver? They like that room.
Yeah, that's a good question, Shadow, what we talked about earlier. It would not surprise us, because if we put 15 things that they might do in the draft, that was probably 10th. But it really would behoove them to get another veteran. I'm not real comfortable. Coaches have always given me this line. What's our answer if this happens? Well, what's our answer if A.J. Brown gets hurt? Obviously, it's a major downgrade. Well, Dotson would start versus Smith, and you need some size. And Johnny Wilson's got size, but he doesn't run that well. He's a blocking receiver. That's all he's been for the Eagles in 1 year. Terrace Marshall, Mike, they don't need to do anything now. Now, if Terrace Marshall gets his act together and shows that that second-round grade that it was second-round draft pick that he was for the Panthers, then they're good. But I would not, Mike, it's a good thing to bring up. I would not, I'd be a little bit itchy. If you and I were running the personnel department, it's probably the only one where I might work out some guys in training camps. Because sometimes, Mike, you'll see on an adjacent field some veterans working out. That's a position I'd start working some guys out just to have an emergency list. All
right, Adam Caplan, the Inside the Birds team and that crew, they're going to be doing plenty of off-season podcasting. And this weekend, the rookies are out on the field. They'll probably start to hear the buzz about some of these guys for the first time on the defensive side of the ball. Everybody loves to see the Birds back on the field as they get ready. Now, Yesterday, they're at the White House, so I think officially the Super Bowl run is now behind them, right?
It is, Mike. I'll say this one thing. Okay, I'm going to say one thing about rookie minicamp. I read nothing. It means absolutely nothing about what's going to happen this season, literally zero, except for one thing. I do look at the body types. When I saw Jordan Mailata in 2018, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. Now, I had no idea if he could play football or not, but I do look at the body types. If a guy's out of shape, too thin, there was a kid named Alex McAllister, I think that was his name, out of Florida State.
Yep, I remember
really
him.
Thin, Mike. He was so rail thin. I remember turning to someone in the personnel department I said, dude, I know you know more than I do, but are you serious about this guy? He's like a waif. And he never made it, Mike. He never played the NFL. He was too small. He was tall, but he's too thin.
Well, looking forward to what happens this rest of this offseason. And, by the way, as I mentioned to Mosher yesterday, I'll say the same to you. Don't blink. Training camp will be here soon.
I know, man. Hey, Browns are coming in again, right? I think Kevin Stefanski and the Browns are coming in.
Yes, they are. 5 quarterbacks will be playing here. We'll see. All right,
I can't wait for that one. I can't wait for that one.